the weight-bearing life. A principle is only as strong as your ability to test it against your own life. Welcome to Voice of Sovereignty. I want to open today with a question, and I want you to answer it honestly to yourself before we go any further. Think of a belief you hold strongly, something you would name without hesitation if someone asked what you stand for. Honesty, courage, loyalty, family, integrity, whatever the word is, hold it in your mind. Now tell me, when is the last time that belief cost you something? Not the last time you mentioned it. Not the last time you agreed with someone who expressed it. The last time it required you to give something up. The last time it put you in conflict with someone whose approval you wanted. The last time it forced you to say something true that made you look worse. Or refuse something profitable that you could have taken. Or stay quiet when the room was cheering for something you knew was wrong. If you can name that moment readily, this episode will confirm and sharpen what you already know. If you are struggling to name it, the weight-bearing life was written for you. And this episode is the argument for why that question matters more than almost any other question you can ask yourself. The book opens with a concept I call the paper fortress. It describes a particular kind of moral life, one that looks solid from the outside and collapses from the inside the moment it meets real pressure. The paper fortress is built post by post. Each moral declaration adds a sheet of cardstock to the wall. Each public alignment with a righteous position adds another layer. From inside, it can feel like strength. There are words everywhere, allies cheering, a warm sense that you are participating in the moral drama of your time. But paper is not stone. It cannot bear the weight of a real storm. And real storms arrive. They arrive in the form of a temptation that your stated values should prevent you from accepting, but that your actual values permit. They arrive in the form of a professional risk that your stated courage should allow you to take, but that your actual risk tolerance prohibits. They arrive in the form of a social cost that your stated integrity should allow you to pay, but that your need for belonging makes too expensive. The paper fortress is not hypocrisy in the simple sense. Most people who live in one are not consciously lying. They are people who have never been forced to find out what their walls are actually made of. The declarations felt sincere when they were made. The cost simply had not arrived yet. A principle is not a statement you agree with. It is a commitment you can be pressed against. It has edge and consequence. It makes demands. It creates friction in your life. If it creates no friction, it may still be a good idea, but it is not yet a principle. It is a preference that happens to sound noble. A principle is not what you believe about yourself. It is what you are willing to lose. Skin in the game. The philosopher William James called this the cash value of an idea. He meant something precise. A belief that produces no measurable difference in how you live is not a belief. It is a decoration. The pragmatist test is simple and ruthless. What does this idea cost you? What does it prevent you from doing? What does it force you to do when you would rather do otherwise? Nassim Taleb sharpened this into the concept of skin in the game. His argument is that the only people whose opinions on risk deserve weight are the people who bear the consequences of being wrong. The same logic applies to moral conviction. The only principles that deserve the name are the ones you have been willing to pay for. This is not a comfortable position. It indicts a significant portion of what passes for moral life in the modern world. The endless declaration of values on platforms where the declaration costs nothing, carries no social risk, and produces no friction whatsoever. I am not arguing that caring about things is fraudulent. I am arguing that caring that never manifests as cost is closer to aesthetic appreciation than to principle. You admire the idea of honesty the way you admire a painting, from a distance, with your hands clean. The weight-bearing life asks for the same standard from your moral architecture that an engineer applies to a bridge. It is proven not by its appearance, but by what it holds when the load is real. The tests. The book identifies 4 specific tests that reveal whether a conviction is structural or decorative. I want to walk through each one briefly. The test of ambition. When your values and your hunger for success finally collide, which one governs? The answer is almost never the one you would give in advance. The person who says they value integrity until the promotion requires a small compromise. The person who says they value family until the opportunity demands the evenings and weekends that family currently occupies. Ambition is the most seductive pressure on moral conviction because it does not feel like temptation. It feels like opportunity, the test of tragedy. When real loss arrives, not the theatrical kind, but the kind that removes something you cannot replace, your philosophy meets its most unforgiving examiner. The platitudes that felt like wisdom in calm weather reveal themselves as aesthetics. The beliefs that survive tragedy are the ones that were built from something other than comfort. The test of the tribe. This may be the most common test and the most commonly failed. When the truth you hold contradicts the consensus of the group that provides your belonging, you face a choice that is rarely experienced as a moral choice. It is experienced as a social emergency. The mind that has never practiced holding a position under social pressure has no preparation for this test. The test of the rigid mind. This is the inverse failure, the person who confuses inflexibility with integrity. Principles are not the same as positions. A principle can be held while a position is revised in light of evidence. The person who cannot update a view without feeling that their character is under attack has built a different kind of paper fortress, one made of stubbornness rather than softness. Corrigibility without drift. One of the central concepts in the book is what I call corrigibility without drift. It describes the capacity to revise a conviction in response to genuine evidence, without losing the thread of who you are across time. Corrigibility is the virtue of being correctable. It is the willingness to update when you are wrong. Without it, you become the ideologue, someone whose beliefs have been sealed from contact with disconfirming evidence, who mistakes certainty for integrity and rigidity for courage. The ideologue fails the test of the rigid mind every time it is applied. But corrigibility without its counterweight, steadfastness, becomes drift. Drift is the process by which a person loses their convictions, not through a dramatic betrayal, but through a series of small, individually defensible revisions until the position they currently hold bears no relationship to the one they began with. Each revision felt reasonable at the time. The cumulative result is that the person no longer knows what they actually believe. The weight-bearing life requires both the willingness to be corrected when you are wrong and the will to hold when the pressure is social rather than evidential. Knowing the difference is the practical work of a lifetime. The forged character. I want to close with the image that gives the book its name. Weight-bearing is a term from architecture and from physiology. A weight-bearing wall is one that holds the structure up. It is not decorative, it is structural. A weight-bearing exercise is one that builds bone density precisely because it applies stress. The stress is not the enemy of the structure. The stress is what makes the structure capable of holding. Character works the same way. The conviction that has been tested is not weakened by the test. It is verified by it. The person who has paid for their honesty knows they are honest in a way that the person who has only declared their honesty cannot know. The person who has held a position under social pressure knows what their courage is made of, in a way that the person who has only expressed courage in safe contexts cannot know. This is why I close the book with the argument that a lifetime of tested convictions is not a lifetime of perfect performance. It is a lifetime of honest accounting and prompt repair. Not flagellation, repair. You see clearly, correct course, and continue. The failure is not the disqualification. The lie is about the failure. The weight-bearing life is available on Amazon. The free book game is at globalsovereignuniversity.org. 30 scenario-based challenges that will tell you, more honestly than any self-assessment, whether your stated convictions are structural or decorative. No login. No tuition. No barriers. A principle is only as strong as your ability to test it against your own life. I hope this episode was one small test. I hope you passed, and I hope that if you did not, you repair promptly and continue. This is Voice of Sovereignty. Keep building.